Level 1, Rookie Guard. It's 1987 and you're 19 years old, standing in a beige uniform that doesn't fit, holding a clipboard that isn't yours. Your father worked a factory line for 30 years and told you a job's a job as long as you show up. So you show up, even though your hands are sweating through the polyester before your shift even starts. Your first post is the loading dock of a furniture warehouse at 11 p.m. and nobody told you where the light switch is. You find a metal box on the wall with a key on a chain and realize this is the clock, the thing that proves you actually walked the building. You insert the key into the first station and twist, and it makes a satisfying mechanical click. You walk the perimeter with a flashlight that flickers every few steps and you tell yourself the shadows aren't moving. The warehouse is enormous and mostly dark, rows of shelving stretching further than your flashlight beam can reach, and every few minutes you think you hear footsteps that turn out to be the building settling. Around 2 a.m. you hear glass break somewhere in the back lot and your stomach drops. You grip the flashlight like a weapon and creep toward the sound, heart pounding, and find a raccoon knocked over a bottle in the dumpster. You laugh out loud, alone in an empty warehouse, and something in you settles. You finish the round, punch the last clock station, and sit in the guard shack until sunrise, writing your first incident report in handwriting that's still slightly shaky. You realize this job is mostly about being alone with your own nerves, and you decide you can handle that. Level 2, Night Shift Veteran. You've worked 6 months of graveyard shifts and you know every creak in this building by name, every light that buzzes and every door that sticks. You've upgraded from the flickering flashlight to your own maglite, bought with your own money, because a guard who buys his own gear is a guard who's serious. You start carrying a pager clipped to your belt so dispatch can reach you between rounds, and the first time it buzzes at 3 a.m. you nearly jump out of your boots. Dispatch tells you a silent alarm tripped in the office wing and you're the only one on site. You walk toward the office wing alone, no backup, just you and a maglite and a pager that already did its job, running through worst-case scenarios in your head the entire way. You find the door ajar and your pulse spikes, but it's just a cleaning crew who forgot to reset the alarm code. You radio it in, log it, and go back to your rounds, adrenaline slowly draining out of your legs. Your supervisor tells you that you handled it calmer than guys twice your age. You start believing you might actually be good at this. Level 3, Licensed and Armed. Saving up for weeks, you finally take the course to get your firearms permit, sitting in a folding chair in a strip mall classroom watching slides on use of force law you didn't know existed. You pass the range qualification on your second try after your instructor tells you to stop brushing the trigger. You strap on a duty belt for the first time and it feels heavier than you expected, both in weight and in meaning, every buckle a reminder of what you're now responsible for. Your new post is a bank branch, and your first week someone tries to walk in after hours claiming he forgot his wallet inside. You stand your ground politely but firmly, voice steady even though your hands aren't, and he leaves cursing at you from the parking lot. Your manager tells you that was a textbook de-escalation. 2 weeks later, a real attempted break-in happens on the night shift after yours, and you realize how close you came to being the guy standing there when it went bad. You start taking the job more seriously than you ever have. Level 4, Site Supervisor. Promotion puts you in charge of a team of 4 other guards at a shopping mall, and now you're the one writing the schedules instead of just following them. You inherit a walkie-talkie system instead of a pager, 6 units that all need charging every night, and half of them have dying batteries you have to babysit and swap mid-shift. On a Friday night, one of your rookies calls in a fight breaking out near the food court, and you sprint across the mall, keys jingling, radio crackling with half-finished sentences you can barely make out. You arrive to find 2 guys squared up and a crowd forming, phones already out filming, and you step between them using your voice instead of your hands, the way you were trained. It works. You separate them, get statements, and file the incident report at 2 a.m. with your hands still shaking slightly from the adrenaline. Corporate reviews the report and compliments your handling of the situation. You learn something that night. Managing people scared is harder than managing your own fear. Level 5, Shift Supervisor for the whole property. Both shifts answer to you now, day and night, coordinating with off-site dispatch and the property's first generation of CCTV cameras, grainy black and white feeds on a bank of monitors in a back room that hum louder than they should. You spend hours squinting at static fuzzed footage trying to identify a shoplifter from a blurry frame, rewinding the same 8 seconds over and over on a clunky VR deck. A guard under you calls in sick last minute on New Year's Eve, the busiest night of the year, and you have to cover his post yourself on top of your own duties, running on no sleep and gas station coffee. You're exhausted when a real medical emergency happens. A customer collapses near the escalators, and you're the one who gets there first, checks for breathing, and calms the crowd until paramedics arrive. The family thanks you personally afterward, and it stays with you longer than any incident report ever has, longer than any theft or break-in you've ever logged. You go home at 6 a.m. and realize you've stopped thinking of this as a job you're passing through. Level 6, Operations Manager. Cell phones the size of bricks start showing up on some guards' belts by the mid-90s, though you still trust the radio more out of habit. You're managing 3 properties at once, driving between them in your own car, a walkie in one hand and a paper schedule in the other, coffee going cold in the cup holder. You have to fire a guard for sleeping on post for the first time, and it eats at you more than you expected, remembering your own rookie year and how easily exhaustion can win. A client calls furious because an intrusion at one of your sites wasn't caught until morning, and you have to sit across the table and explain what went wrong without making excuses, absorbing the anger so your team doesn't have to. You rework the patrol patterns yourself that same week, tightening the gaps between rounds, and 3 months later that same client renews the contract and specifically requests your team by name. Your reflexes got you here. Your judgment is what keeps you here now. Level 7, Regional Security Manager. A dozen sites now fall under your territory, and you're the one signing off on new equipment, including the first digital access card systems replacing the old metal keys you cut your teeth on. You feel a strange nostalgia clocking the last building still using the old key in a box system, knowing it's about to be retired for good. A major client, a corporate office park, has an after-hours break-in that makes the local news, and you personally run point on the investigation alongside the client and the police. You pull camera footage, cross-reference badge swipes, and identify the exact point of entry, a service door someone propped open for a smoke break weeks earlier and never reported. The client is impressed enough by your thoroughness to expand the contract to 2 more buildings on the spot. Other supervisors don't call you just to cover a shift anymore. They call when something's gone wrong. Level 8, Director of Security Operations. Budgets replace patrol schedules as your main concern in the 2000s, managing security for a mix of corporate offices, retail chains, and one hospital campus. You push the company to adopt real-time monitoring software, arguing with the owner who still trusts a clipboard more than a database and calls it a fad. You win that argument the hard way when the new system catches an internal theft ring spanning 3 locations that the old paper logs never would have flagged in time. You sit through your first deposition as an expert witness, explaining chain of custody on camera footage to a room full of lawyers, and your hands don't shake anymore the way they did on your first bank post. You get asked to sit on a panel at a regional security trade conference, the guy from the beige uniform now advising other companies on protocol and liability. Younger guards in the audience take notes on laptops while you're still more comfortable with a legal pad, and you find that funny rather than embarrassing. You realize the kid punching a key into a metal box in 1987 somehow ended up here. Level 9, Company Owner. 3 guards. That's the whole company you start with when you leave, to build your own private security firm, training each of them personally, the way someone once trained you in a folding chair classroom. Your first year is brutal, chasing contracts, underbidding competitors, working post yourself when you're short-staffed just like you did decades ago, some nights sleeping in your car between shifts. You land your first major account, a downtown high-rise, and it nearly falls apart in month 2 when a guard you hired lets his guard down and a break-in happens on his watch. You handle the client call yourself, take full responsibility, restructure the post coverage overnight, and the client stays with you instead of walking. Slowly, your company grows, adding armed response teams, then executive protection details for visiting corporate clients, then a whole division dedicated to physical security for server rooms and data centers. You hire guards who weren't even born the year you started, and you find yourself giving them the same advice your first supervisor gave you about calm voices and steady hands. You didn't just build a company. You built the career ladder you climbed, now laid out as steps for other people. Level 10, Industry Legend. You're invited to speak at a national security industry conference as the closing keynote, introduced as someone who started as an unarmed rookie in a beige uniform and built a firm now protecting Fortune 500 campuses. You tell the story of the raccoon in the dumpster on your very first night, and the room laughs the way you once laughed alone in an empty warehouse decades ago. You receive a Lifetime Achievement Award from the same trade association that once trained you in that strip mall classroom. You open a training academy of your own, teaching de-escalation and patrol tactics to 19-year-olds who remind you painfully of yourself. You take one particular trainee under your wing, a kid nervous on his first night post, jumping at every shadow the way you once did. You hand him a flashlight, the same brand you carried on your first night, and tell him the shadows aren't moving. You watch him walk his first round from a distance, Radio silent. Boots a little too loud on the concrete, exactly like yours once were. You think about the raccoon, the clipboard that wasn't yours, the beige uniform that never quite fit. You smile. You know the cycle will continue forever.